From being a legend of the sport to hurling racial slurs at the greatest of all time, Nelson Piquet ruined his legacy and was rightfully fined $1 million. Here's why the ruling by the court was super important. The ruling against him shows that racism and homophobia will not be tolerated in the world of motorsports or anywhere else. It sends a powerful message to fans, drivers, and team owners that they must take responsibility for their words and actions. The fact that he used such derogatory language toward Hamilton, who is the only black driver in F1, makes the situation even more troubling. As fans, we look up to these drivers as role models, and they should always conduct themselves respectfully and professionally, like no one would want to associate with the F1. Is this how the racers behaved with each other? This completely ruins the essence of the sportsman's spirit. That's why the decision to impose moral damages on Piquet is a step in the right direction towards creating a more inclusive and accepting motorsport community. It's also important to highlight that racism and homophobia are not just words. They can devastate individuals and communities. By holding him accountable for his actions, the court has demonstrated that such behavior will not be tolerated and will have consequences. Such decisions also provide a source of comfort to the drivers. They know that they won't be on their own if they're abused like this. Imagine what it must have been like for Hamilton, the only black racer. Only he can understand the pain of those comments. So exactly what did he say? Piquet, a 70-year-old retired Formula One champion, made headlines for using a racially offensive term to refer to Lewis Hamilton. The term means little black guy, and honestly, that's no way to refer to someone who's played a huge part in making F1 this popular. Like, I can't even imagine F1 without Hamilton, and this is how the legends of the sport are treating him? Unbelievable! Piquet's derogatory comments received backlash from the public, and people condemned his behavior. And rightfully so. This incident brought attention to the issue of racism in motorsports and the need for more efforts to combat it. The 7-time world champion, who has been vocal about his own experiences with racism in F1, called for action to be taken against racism in the sport. Piquet's use of this offensive term shows that there is still much work to be done to eliminate racism from the world of motorsports. It is important to recognize that using derogatory language towards someone's race is unacceptable and has no place in our society. The incident also underscores the need for greater education and awareness about racial issues in sports. Huge respect for the court in Brasilia for taking action quickly against their star. Most just start defending their so-called heroes, but only the real ones stand up for what's right. Here's what they had to say. The court in Brasilia had ordered Nelson Piquet, the retired Formula One champion, to pay 5 million Brazilian reals. These funds will then be used to promote racial equality and fight discrimination against the LGBTQIA+ community. Now that's the type of justice that we all wish to see more of in this world. Hopefully, this will be an example that others follow. This significant ruling by the court also serves as a warning to others who may be tempted to make similar derogatory comments. It is a step towards promoting inclusivity and tolerance in Brazilian society. Plus, the court's decision to allocate the funds in this way sends a strong message that discriminatory behavior will not be tolerated in Brazil, and that the country is committed to promoting equality and fighting discrimination in all its forms. The government already has a bad reputation when it comes to its justice system, so I guess it's essential for Brazil as well. Sanctions are a pretty important factor when combating these issues because they show that there are consequences. You also can't forget the role of human rights groups in all of this. Here's what they did. It's great to see human rights groups like Brazil's National LGBTI+ Alliance standing up to Nelson Piquet's discriminatory language. They're taking legal action against him for violating the norms of human dignity in Brazil's constitution. Clearly, this was more than just drama in the F1, and rightfully so. Human rights are human rights, and this goes to show how serious the matter is. The fact that human rights groups are involved in this case also shows that society is waking up to the need for more comprehensive anti-discrimination laws. We need to protect the rights of minorities minority groups and prevent instances of hate speech and discrimination from happening in the first place. It sends a message that society won't tolerate this behavior and that it has consequences. This case is also a reminder for all of us to check our attitudes and behaviors toward others. Discrimination and hate speech is not okay in modern society. We must create a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, or any other characteristic that makes them unique. Though it's good to see that fans were having none of this, because, well, their reactions made their viewpoint of the matter pretty clear. After Piquet's comments went public, there was a widespread outcry from fans, F1 drivers, and officials. Hamilton himself condemned the remarks, saying that such comments only serve to fuel hate and discrimination, and calling on motorsport organizations to take stronger action against racism. We'll look at his reaction in a little more detail later on. Many other F1 drivers and officials also expressed their disappointment and disgust at Piquet's comments, with some calling for him to be boycotted from the sport altogether. To be honest, that doesn't seem like an exaggerated response, given what he said. While F1 has made some progress in recent years, with initiatives such as the We Race as One campaign aimed at promoting diversity and inclusion, I doubt they'll cut him off completely because they'll reason by saying that he did give a fine, though I'd still want him banned from all future events. Fans, on the other hand, are even angry at him. They took to Twitter and other social media apps to express their disappointment. And let's just say that they didn't use the nicest of words when talking about him. That's why I think it's also important to point out that this isn't the right way to respond as well. It becomes sort of hypocritical if we're bashing someone for being super hateful while using hateful words ourselves. Yeah, I know it is very different, but still, no benefit will come from spreading hate. And that's the message the British champion had. Here's Hamilton's response to all of this. Lewis, the only black driver in F1, was quick to condemn the archaic mindsets of retired Formula One champion Nelson. Speaking out about the incident, he noted that he has had to deal with similar attitudes and has been a target of racism throughout his life. It's even more disappointing now because racing was his one source of comfort, and this is how the veterans of the game treated him. The racer has been an active advocate for greater diversity and inclusion in the sport, and has used his platform to raise awareness about these important issues. Last year, Hamilton received honorary citizenship from Brazil, which speaks to his accomplishments as an athlete. The former champ still didn't fall to the same level and started abusing him. He kept his calm and called for court intervention. How could you even treat a guy like this? He's like the nicest guy in the sport, always trying to fight for everyone's rights and inclusivity. Maybe that's why he had this outcry of support. But again, don't be hateful in your support. It kind of defeats the entire purpose. And I hope this incident does end up raising the awareness I was talking about earlier on, and that we all unite together in making this world a safer place for everyone. That's all from me on how the retired F1 star received a massive fine for his racist blast.
Lewis Hamilton wins the Turkish Grand Prix and is a 7-time champion of the world.